You call that a firestorm? Well, that's more like it. Hello, Exiles. Welcome to another video. I can't believe we're already playing Path of Exile 2 after the long, agonizing 2-week wait. Yes, the game is much harder. It took me 3 days to complete the campaign. Most of it was trying out the new skills and combos the new game offers. And after a lot of testing, here's a build I've come up with. I've been tweaking this build these past few days. It took me a while to post it because I didn't want to make a half-baked build that couldn't reach maps. But now that I finished the campaign, here it is. This is an Invoker monk, using all the trigger gems I can fit in. The main damaging skill is Elemental Invocation, which is a trigger gem that allows us to cast a spell multiple times. And what better spell to use than Comet Storm? Well, it's just Comet, combined with Spell Echo and Spell Cascade. Before I go deeper into the build, let me just give you a quick rundown on trigger gems and how I sustain my energy. Trigger gems are buffs that reserve spirit. They're unusable on their own, and you'll need one or more spells to make use of them. You'll notice an energy counter on the top left corner of your screen. Once that is filled up, the trigger gem will either automatically cast it, or you may need to cast them manually, like Elemental Invocation. To fill up this energy counter, you need to fulfill certain conditions depending on the trigger gem. Cast on Ignite, you need to ignite enemies. Cast on Freeze, you need to freeze enemies. You get the idea. For Elemental Invocation, though, you can fill it up with all 3 elemental ailments: Ignite, Freeze, and Shock. You also have to cast it manually, triggering the socketed spell multiple times, depending on how much energy you've accumulated. So why am I explaining this? It's because this is essential to how the build works. The most important thing is an in-game description of energy. Energy cannot be gained from direct effects of triggered skills. This means triggering Comet using Elemental Invocation and subsequently freezing the monster won't give you energy back. It also won't trigger your Cast on Freeze. Hence, in Path of Exile 2, you cannot create a full loop using trigger gems. Maybe there's a combo out there or unique item that enables us to do it. Here's hoping. Here's an example of this. I'm using Cast on Ignite and Cast on Freeze, both linked with a Comet. When I trigger the Comet using Ignite, it freezes the enemy. Logically, it should also trigger another Comet because of the Cast on Freeze. But it doesn't. That's because the freeze came from a triggered spell. So how do we go around this? We do this by using Frost Wall along with our trigger gems. Basically, we cast Frost Wall, trigger our Comet, the Comet destroys the wall, and the Frost Wall freezes the enemy. And since Frost Wall is not a triggered spell because we cast it ourselves, it will trigger our Cast on Freeze setup. This is how we can sustain Elemental Invocation. After generating enough energy, cast a Frost Wall before you trigger Elemental Invocation, and hope the wall freezes the enemy before it gets obliterated to gain your energy back. You also need a lot of mana regeneration for this build. All that's left now is to get more energy buildup. That's where Invoker comes in. Invoker has the skill The Soul Springs Eternal, which allows us to gain more energy. The wording is more, so this is a multiplier to all increases of energy you can get from passive skill tree. You could get more from specific jewels. Since we're here, here's my passive tree. Get all the crit nodes while you path up. Get the mana regeneration nodes and reduced mana cost nodes here. Critical strike nodes here. And here are the increased energy nodes. Only take this when you gain access to trigger skills. Take Lucidity, since we're already stacking mana and mana regeneration. Also, take the cold passives when you're using cold spells for leveling. Here's the other skill cluster for triggers. After that, you could go up to get more damage, mana regeneration, or more intelligence attributes. Or you could go down to get more cold damage, evasion, or reduced mana cost. For the gear, just get a scepter, preferably with increased spirit, so you can equip more buffs. For your other equipment, just focus on getting more life and resistances when leveling. I still need to change some of my gear. For the gems, we're using 3 trigger setups. All use Comet. Cast on Freeze is linked with Clarity for more mana regeneration, if you have the spirit to spare. Cast on Ignite with Elemental Focus, so we're sure that the Comet won't freeze the mobs. Elemental Invocation with Spell Echo for more of Comets. When you get more sockets, then you can add Spell Cascade. If you have more spirit to spare, you can use Ghost Dance if you have Evasion and Energy Shield gear. Otherwise, use Arctic Armor. You can move Clarity here, so you can swap in a damage support gem. For the other gems, you could mix and match as you like, but here's my setup. Frost Wall with Glaciation for more freeze and Ingenuity for more cooldown. Frost Bomb with Fast Forward for less skill duration, and Strip Away for increased exposure effect. Solar Orb to trigger our Cast on Ignite setup. It's linked with Arcane Tempo, and Inspiration for cast speed and less mana cost. Hypothermia with Heightened Curse and Focused Curse. And finally, Lightning Warp, which I use mostly for the mana recovery from Soul Drain, and that's a big if the enemy survives the barrage. So that's what I've been tweaking these past few days. As usual, here's a sample campaign run in cool mode, ending in a boss fight. Enjoy.
come to bed with me? Now, then feast on you I shall.
How disgusting!
Come to bed. Come, my brother.
That's the build. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider liking and subscribing to my channel. Thanks again and see you in the next video.